I'm an international supermodel, and here's what being humble got me into a party, even though I was on the list, because I waited in the line instead of just going all the way to the front and acting like I already knew I was on the list. There's countless times where I've been at a party, and I was waiting for the VIP section person to open the rope, and I was just being all shy and insecure, so they thought I was nobody, but everybody in the VIP section knew who I was.
Humbling yourself, or are you watering yourself down? Woo! Are you humbling yourself, or are you purposefully hiding your gifts and talents because you don't want to intimidate others? Who said that? Who said that? Now, shouts to Janae. I actually felt sad watching that video because this is the trap that many men and women will fall into if they don't understand how to use humility in the right way. Okay? Please put your antennas up. Put your antennas up, because I'm going to drop some gems and this is going to get very deep. So try to stay with me. Okay? I'm going to try to explain this the best way I know how. Humble means to lower oneself. That is the definition of humble. However, as a human, you're going to have to learn how to use humility in the right ways. Humility is subjective, meaning the way I humble myself before God, I'm not going to humble myself before you that way. Because of the nature of humans, because of human nature, if you lower yourself before them, they will step on you and take advantage of that. If you lower yourself before God, God will honor that. Do you see the difference? Because God is not corrupt. God is not going to see your humility and weaponize it the way a human will. Okay? Stay with me here. Now, humility for me has two definitions. I'm going to tell you guys how I use humility in my life. You don't have to do it that way, but this is how I do it. Humility for me has two definitions. The first is to lower oneself. I will lower myself before God. That's the only person I will lower myself before, God. The second definition of humility for me is to be teachable. I will be teachable amongst humans. I will respect people and I will respect their domain, but I'm not going to lower myself before them. Okay? And the reason why is because of the corrupt nature that humans possess. People are superficial, right? We know humans are very shallow. That's why people treat people differently based on the way they look. People treat people differently based on what they drive. You know, people always ask you, oh, what do you do? Because they're going to judge you based on what you say. Humans are very superficial. People are very superficial. So they're already trying to judge you upon meeting you so that they can see how to treat you, right? People ask you, what do you do, so that they can know how to treat you. People ask you for photos so they can know where to classify you, right? Because humans are shallow and superficial by nature. That's why if you pull up in a bicycle versus pulling up in a Rolls Royce, they're going to treat you better if you pull up in a Rolls Royce, because people are superficial. Now, knowing that, do you think it would be wise for you to lower yourself before people? Knowing how superficial and corrupt humans are, do you think it's wise to downplay yourself in front of them? That's a question that I'd like you guys to answer in the comment section. Do you think it's wise? Because what happened here with Janae is Janae probably didn't know human nature. If you are a model with a following and you're an amazing model and she's a beautiful girl at that, you should show that. I'm not saying to be arrogant and prideful with it either. I'm saying let people know I'm a model. This is what I do. This is the agency I work for. And whoever feels uncomfortable by you sharing that information is just an insecure person, whatever, they can go their way. But at least people know who you are and you'll get the respect that's needed for where you are. But when you try to play too humble with people, you're going to get disregarded. You're going to get disrespected. And they are going to treat you negatively. But if you humble yourself before God, God's not going to do that. So I think that sometimes in life we give people too much credit. I always tell you guys, humans are not God. So they have room for corruption in their hearts. Jealousy, envy. God doesn't have that, but people do. So when you're approaching people in a way where you're watering yourself down for them, you think it's going to make them like you, but it's actually going to make them treat you like trash. Okay? So true humility amongst humans, I'm not talking about being humble before God. You know, you humble yourself before God, you bow at your knees for God. You know, you ask God for mercy. You recognize God in his position. You don't give people that same energy because they're not going to be able to balance it correctly. Because with people, you're dealing with their egos, their insecurities, their limits. There's a whole lot going on with people when you're dealing with them. Sometimes you're like a mirror for them. It's a whole lot going on with them. I wouldn't approach them in the lowering yourself angle. I wouldn't lower myself before them, but I think humility amongst humans is one, being teachable. If somebody knows more than you know, allow them to teach you. Allow them to guide you, allow them to steer you, right? If somebody has an ability that I don't have, or somebody knows something that I don't know, I am going to allow them. I will allow them to teach me, and I will humble myself before that person. Pull out my notepad, sit crisscross applesauce like a kindergartner and say, teach me your ways. That is humility. You're able to be teachable. You can be taught. You never think that you're too smart for those around you. You never think that you know everything. You ever meet those people that think they know everything, and because they think they know everything, they end up falling in a lion's den because they're not teachable? That's somebody that's not humble because you think you know everything. Also, respecting other people's domain. That's a big thing. That is a sign of humility amongst humans, amongst men and women. This is something that a lot of women have a hard time with, is respecting another person's domain. Many women lack humility in the area of you think you know everything and you don't. And you go into another woman's territory trying to control it. That is a lack of humility. That is the true definition of you're not humble. You're going into another person's domain and you're trying to change it up. You're going into another person's domain and you're not allowing somebody to teach you something that you may not know, especially if they're coming at the right angle. Okay. A lack of humility also, this shows up amongst women too, is when you're trying to pick what somebody's saying apart. You're trying to look for faults in what the person is saying because you can't digest that somebody may know more than you. So because of that, you have to nitpick at what they're saying. Those are things that will shut the doors for you and classify you as somebody who lacks humility because you're not willing to learn. Okay. So you guys got to be careful. Listen, you guys have to be careful with the humble word. For me, being raised Christian, the humble word is weaponized in religious settings. You know, if the pastor can't run up your pockets, you're not humble. If the leader cannot disrespect you, you're not humble. If the first lady feels like you look better than her or you have more than her, she's going to say you're not humble. Be careful with the way people use the word humble. That's why I don't like the word, because most people are weaponizing it to push their agenda ahead. When somebody is trying to humble you, it's usually because you're shining bright and they want you to lower yourself a couple notches. So they say, oh, you need to humble yourself, or they say things to try and humble you. That is sadistic. That's why I say, if you're going to have humility in your life, make sure you're using it correctly. You lower yourself before God and you allow God to lower you. Not humans, though. They're too corrupt for that type of humility. That humility is for God. When it comes to people, you're not lowering yourself before anybody, but you are respecting people's domain, yes. And you are allowing yourself to be teachable by people, yes. But getting hazed, allowing people to haze you, right, is not you humbling. People trying to haze you is really how humans classify humility, as hazing, degrading, or bullying. People are always corrupting things, okay? So when it comes to the word humble, I don't really like it unless it's used on a spiritual sense, meaning how you approach God, humbling yourself before God's throne, or if it's used in a sense of being teachable and respecting other people's hustle and domain. Do not forget to sign up for Life Monopoly. Okay, we have 6 months left until 2026, so this is definitely not the time to play any games. Life Monopoly is probably one of the favorite courses I've created, because in this course, we are going to discuss every single part of your life that needs your focus. Life is like a pie. There's the financial aspect, there's your romantic relationships, there's your friendships, there's your spirituality, there's your self-introspection. And the problem is, since we were in school and college, we were never taught the pie method when it comes to life and how we need to focus on each and every part of our life evenly. We got 6 months left, so this is not the time to waste. Get your life together with the Life Monopoly Masterclass. Finance Boss. Are you feeling like you cannot keep up with your finances? Your savings account is really dry. It's looking really dry. You don't know where your money is going, and you simply can't keep up. First of all, we're going to talk about the spirit of riches in the Finance Boss Masterclass. Yes, there is a lot of spiritual reasoning behind how money works. There's the physical aspect and there's a spiritual aspect. And in this class, we are going to discuss both to make sure that we get you financially where you need to be with the mentality that is necessary to keep your finances in order.